The mortar round struck Earth 30 meters from the northern bunker. The concussion wave hit first. Sound followed, then shrapnel. Sloane hardly felt the impact before she heard it. A white-hot line carved across her left shoulder. Blood immediately soaked through her uniform. Warm, sticky, the kind of bleeding that demanded attention. She ignored it. "Tourniquet on Corporal Dalton's leg," she shouted over the ringing in her ears. "High and tight. Move wounded to secondary bunker now." Captain Merrick Keller dropped beside her, eyes wide. "Doc, you're bleeding." "I can work, sir." Sloane's voice cut through the chaos like a scalpel through skin. Clean, precise. "Dalton can't. Move him." Another mortar round screamed overhead. Sloane grabbed the Barrett rifle with her right hand while her left pressed a combat gauze pack against her own shoulder. Blood seeped through her fingers. She didn't flinch. Around her, men moved. Some crawled, some ran, and all of them bleeding. All of them alive. For now. Sloane Hartley's hands had kept them that way. One hand to heal, one hand to fight. Some medics save lives, some soldiers take them. Sloane Hartley did both. This is how, 96 hours earlier, the wind came off the Alaska Range like a living thing. It howled through the valleys surrounding Outpost Kodiak 7, carrying snow that felt more like sand. The kind of cold that didn't just chill, it carved. Staff Sergeant Sloane Hartley stood outside the medical bunker, face turned into the wind. Her eyes were closed, not against the cold, against the memories. She breathed. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. An old rhythm, one she'd learned long ago, one she'd promised never to use again. The rhythm her father had taught her when she was 11 years old. When he'd first put a rifle in her hands and said, "Breathing controls everything, Sloane. Your heart, your hands, your shot." She'd been a natural. He'd known it immediately. The way she read wind from tree movement, the way she calculated distance instinctively, the way her body settled into firing to positions like water finding level. "You've got the gift," he'd said after her first week. "Seen thousands of Marines come through. Maybe 3 had what you have." Behind her, the door to the medical bunker opened. Corporal Quinn Davis stepped out, medical bag slung over his shoulder. "Doc, you good out here?" Davis pulled his parka tighter. "Weather brief says we're looking at whiteout conditions by 1800. Sloane opened her eyes. "I'm good, Corporal. Just checking the wind." Davis gave her an odd look. "Checking the wind?" "Storm patterns." Sloane turned back toward the bunker. "Need to know if medevac will be viable tonight." It was a reasonable answer, medical logic. Davis nodded and headed toward the main compound. Sloane watched him go. Then she looked back at the mountains. Her lips moved silently, calculating wind speed from the snow's trajectory. 15 miles per hour, gusting to 20, northeast bearing. At 1,200 meters, that wind would push a match-grade 7.62 round, approximately 3.8 mils right. At 1,800 meters, call it 6 mils. She stopped herself, shook her head. That knowledge belonged to someone else, someone she used to be, someone named Ghost Viper. She was just a medic now. The briefing room smelled like coffee sweat and diesel fuel. 18 men crowded around a plywood table covered with maps and satellite imagery. At the head of the table stood Captain Merrick Keller, 38 years old Marine infantry officer with 2 combat deployments and eyes that missed nothing. Beside him, Master Sergeant Cole Thatcher, 42, built like a refrigerator with a voice that could strip paint and a reputation for running the tightest platoon in the battalion. "Listen up," Thatcher growled. "Intel indicates increased activity in sectors Delta and Echo. We're talking patrols, probing actions, maybe prep for something bigger." Lieutenant Brock Carver leaned forward. "Rules of engagement. Defensive posture," Keller said. "We hold, we observe, we report. If they come at us, we respond proportionally." Around the table, men nodded, checked notes, studied terrain with the practiced eyes of professionals who'd learned to read maps like some men read novels. In the back corner near the coffee pot, Sloane Hartley stood with her arms crossed. She was the only woman in the room, the only person not wearing a combat load, just her medical bag, just her uniform. She listened, she watched, she said nothing, but her eyes moved across the map, automatically cataloging dead ground, likely ambush positions, optimal overwatch locations, terrain folds that could conceal movement, ridge lines that offered commanding fire. Old training, muscle memory of the mind. She caught herself, forced her eyes back to neutral focus. Thatcher traced a finger along the map. "Supply run to Research Station Echo, scheduled for tomorrow, weather permitting. 4-man team light footprint." "What about medical coverage?" Sergeant Gage Ryland asked. Thatcher glanced at Sloane. "Brief? Dismissive?" Medical assets stay rear support. Will radio if needed. Not Doc Hartley will stay back. Not we'll leave medical here. Just medical assets. Like she was equipment, not personnel. Sloane's expression didn't change. Professional, calm. She'd heard worse. The briefing continued. Routes discussed, sectors assigned, contingencies planned. Not once did anyone ask for her input. Not once did anyone look at her during tactical discussions. She was in the room, but not part of the circle. Just a medic. The armory smelled like gun oil and cold metal. Corporal Evan Dalton sat on a bench checking his gear for the morning patrol. Combat harness, magazines, radio, tourniquet mounted on his belt. Sloane approached quietly. "Corporal, mind if I check your med kit?" Dalton looked up, young, maybe 26, confident in that way men get after a few deployments without getting hit. That invincibility complex that came from surviving Kandahar, from walking through IED country and coming home whole. "Got it covered, Doc." He patted the IFAC pouch on his belt. "Been doing this since Kandahar." Sloane nodded. "I'm sure you have, just doing my job." "No offense, Doc, but I know how to pack a med kit." Dalton stood slinging his rifle. "Save your time for the guys who need handholding." He walked away. Not hostile, just dismissive. Sloane stood alone in the armory. Around her, weapons lined the walls: M4 carbines, M240 machine guns, grenade launchers, and in the back corner under a tarp something longer. Heavier. Her eyes found it automatically. Lingered. She knew what was under that tarp. Had known from her first day at Kodiak 7. Barrett M82A1, 50 caliber, 31 pounds, 4 ounces unloaded. Effective range 1,800 meters. Maximum range 4,000. The weapon she'd sworn never to touch again. She turned away. The chow hall served what the army always served. Something brown that might have been meat once. Something green that had given up being vegetables. Something beige that claimed to be potatoes, but had the consistency of paste. Sloane sat at a corner table eating methodically. Fuel for the body, nothing more. She'd learned long ago not to think about taste. Food was calories. Calories were energy. Energy kept you alive. 3 tables away, Sergeant Ryland sat with a group of operators. Their voices carried in the concrete room. The kind of casual conversation that happened when men thought they weren't being overheard. "Heard the new medic's a woman," someone said. Ryland forked something brown into his mouth. "Yeah, transferred in 3 weeks ago." "She any good?" "Seems professional, quiet, keeps to herself. Hope she doesn't freeze up if things get hot. Davis says her file looks clean, multiple deployments. But you know how it is." "Yeah, file says one thing. Combat says another." Sloane kept eating, didn't look up, didn't react. She'd heard it before. Every new unit, every deployment, the doubts, the questions, the unspoken assumption that she'd need to prove herself while men with less experience got assumed competence. She could have walked over, could have said something, could have pulled rank, could have mentioned her 7 deployments to their 4. Could have told them about the 47 confirmed kills that didn't exist in any file they had clearance to read. Instead, she finished her meal, cleared her tray, left. Respect wasn't demanded, it was earned. She'd learned that from her father. Gunnery Sergeant Everett Hartley, the man who'd taught her everything that mattered. The supply bay was organized chaos, crates of ammunition stacked precisely, medical supplies inventoried and labeled, MREs arranged by meal type. Private Owen Huxley was counting boxes, clipboard in hand, checking manifest numbers against actual inventory. "Sergeant Hartley," he nodded as she entered. "Private, looking for a resupply on IV fluids. 3rd pallet left side. Lactated ringers or normal saline? Both, 2 liters each." Sloane found the supplies and began loading them into her bag. Behind her, she heard Huxley talking with another soldier. "You good for tomorrow's run?" "Yeah, should be fine. Still sore from that breaching drill yesterday, but nothing serious." Sloane's hands slowed. "Breaching drill." Huxley turned. "Ma'am, you said you're sore from the breaching drill, where just my side. Hit the wall harder than I meant to, but it's fine, just a bruise." Sloane studied him. Early 20s, fit, healthy color, moving normally, no visible distress, but something in the way he favored his left side when he turned. Subtle. Most people wouldn't catch it. "Can I take a look?" Huxley hesitated. "Doc, seriously, it's just a bruise. Won't take long. I really don't. Humor me, Private." Huxley sighed, lifted his shirt. A dark purple bruise spread across his left side from ribs to hip, the kind of impact pattern that came from hitting something hard, something unyielding. Sloane stepped closer. Her fingers moved gently across the bruised area, palpating, feeling for abnormalities beneath the skin. Does it hurt when I press here? A little. Here, yeah, that's ow, yeah. Deep breath, Huxley inhaled, winced slightly, just a fraction. But Sloane saw it. She lowered his shirt. Keep an eye on that. If the pain gets worse, or if you feel dizzy, lightheaded, nauseous, anything unusual, you find me immediately. Understood. It's just a bruise, Doc. Humor me, Private. I want you to check in with me tomorrow morning. Before that supply run, just a quick vitals check. Doc, I'm fine. That's an order, Private. Huxley nodded. Yes, ma'am. Sloane gathered her supplies and left. Behind her, she heard him mutter to his buddy, overreacting. It's just a damn bruise. Maybe it was. Probably it was. But Sloane had learned long ago probably wasn't good enough. Not when lives were on the line. She'd seen delayed splenic rupture twice before. Both times in Syria, both times the initial injury had seemed minor. Both times by the time symptoms appeared, hemorrhage was already critical. One of those soldiers had survived. The other hadn't. Sloane didn't plan on losing anyone at Kodiak 7 to something she could prevent. The weapons maintenance bay was warmer than the rest of the compound. Generators hummed a low, constant drone. Space heaters glowed orange, pushing back against the brutal Alaska cold. Master Sergeant Thatcher sat at a workbench, field stripping an M240 machine gun, piece by piece. Clean, oil, inspect, reassemble. The ritual of a professional who understood that weapons maintenance wasn't just procedure, it was survival. Sloane entered carrying a box of supplies to the medical locker in the corner. She moved quietly, efficiently, organized bandages by type, restocked medications in alphabetical order, inventoried equipment against her mental checklist. The M240 sat on the bench. Thatcher had stepped away for a moment. The traverse and elevation mechanism was loose. Not critically, but enough that it would affect accuracy at range. Sloane's eyes found it. Her hand moved before her brain gave permission. She reached out, adjusted the tension. Half a turn, the mechanism tightened to spec. That's my weapon, Doc. Sloane froze. Thatcher stood in the doorway, arms crossed, eyes calculating. Hands off unless you're treating someone. Apologies, Master Sergeant. Sloane stepped back. The traverse mechanism was loose, force of habit. Thatcher's eyes narrowed. Force of habit from what? Sloane met his gaze. Steady, professional. My father was military, grew up around weapons. Old habits. It was true, just not the whole truth. Her father had taught her to field strip an M240 when she was 12. Had her adjusting traverse mechanisms by 13. By 14, she could diagnose and fix mechanical issues on any crew-served weapon in the Marine Corps inventory. Weapons are tools, he'd said. You treat them with respect, they'll never let you down. You ignore them, they'll get you killed. Thatcher studied her for a long moment. Then he walked to the M240, checked the adjustments she'd made, tested the mechanism. It moved smoothly, perfectly, exactly to specification. He said nothing, just nodded once. Sloane finished her work and left. Behind her, Thatcher stood alone, staring at the weapon, wondering. Night fell over Kodiak 7 like a hammer. Temperature dropped to -15. Wind shrieked through the compound with the voice of something ancient and angry. Snow piled in drifts against bunker walls, building sculptures that would freeze solid by morning. Inside the medical bay, Sloane sat at a small desk. A single lamp illuminated her workspace. She was updating medical records, inventory logs, routine paperwork, the endless bureaucracy that followed medical personnel everywhere. Her fingers tapped a rhythm on the desk. 4 taps, pause. 7 taps, pause. 8 taps. 4 seconds in, 7 seconds hold, 8 seconds out. The breathing pattern, the one snipers used to slow their heart rate before a shot, the one that could drop a resting pulse from 70 beats per minute to 55, the one that steadied hands and cleared minds and made impossible shots possible. She caught herself, stopped, stared at her hand like it belonged to someone else. On the wall above her desk hung her medical certifications. Navy Hospital Corpsman, Advanced Tactical Combat Casualty Care, Wilderness Medicine, Advanced Cardiac Life Support, all legitimate, all current, all true. What wasn't on the wall, the other certifications, the classified ones, Scout Sniper School graduated top of class, Advanced Reconnaissance Course, SEER Level C, High-Risk Personnel Course, the certifications that had been buried with Ghost Viper. Sloane stood, walked to the window. Outside, snow fell in sheets, visibility maybe 20 feet. The world reduced to white noise and darkness. She watched the storm, Calculated wind speed from the snow's angle. Northeast, 22 miles per hour sustained, gusting to 28. At 800 meters, that wind would push a .50 caliber round, approximately 4.3 mils right. At 1200 meters, 7.2 mils. Factor in the cold temperature, affected powder burn rate, which affected velocity, which affected drop and drift. She closed her eyes. Stop. That life was over. That skill set buried. She'd made a promise. Never again. Behind her, the door opened. Lieutenant Carver stepped in snow, dusting his shoulders. Doc, got a minute? Of course, sir. Carver removed his gloves, flexed his fingers against the cold. Wanted to check something. Your file says you've done 7 deployments. Afghanistan, Iraq, Syria. That's correct? Syria. Carver studied her face. What unit? Fleet Marine Force support, sir. Attached to various elements as needed. Various elements, Carver nodded slowly. You ever do anything besides medical? The question hung in the cold air. A test, a probe. Sloan met his eyes. I'm a hospital corpsman lieutenant. Medical is what I do. Right. Carver pulled his gloves back on. Just curious. Your file has some gaps. 14 months. 2021 to 2022. Just says special assignment. Classified. Paperwork errors, sir. Admin issues. You know how it is. Yeah. Carver headed for the door, stopped. One more thing. You shoot. Sloane's heart rate didn't change. Her expression didn't flicker. Years of training made lying with the body's second nature. My father taught me, sir, long time ago. You any good? I was adequate, sir. Adequate. The word tasted like ash. 47 confirmed kills. 0 misses. The best natural shooter her instructors had ever seen. Adequate. Carver nodded. Good to know, in case we ever need extra hands on a weapon. He left. Sloan stood alone in the medical bay. In the reflection of the window, she could see herself. Small, 5'4", 120 pounds. The kind of woman men assumed couldn't handle heavy weapons. They were wrong, but she'd let them think it, because the alternative meant questions. Questions meant answers. Answers meant the past coming back, and the past needed to stay buried, along with the little girl whose face she saw every time she closed her eyes. Dawn came slowly to Alaska. More gray than gold. The storm had passed in the night, leaving 3 feet of fresh snow that transformed the compound into something alien and beautiful. Sloan was already awake. She'd never been good at sleeping. Too many memories waiting in the dark. Too many faces. Too many voices. She dressed. Checked her medical bag. Restocked supplies. Routine. Structure. The only things that kept the ghosts at bay. At 6:30, she headed to the chow hall. Coffee, toast, fuel. The hall was half full. Men in various states of wakefulness, some heading out on patrol, others just coming off watch. The eternal cycle of military life. Sloan took her coffee to a corner table. Across the room, she heard voices. Sergeant Ryland, Corporal Dalton, a few others. Patrol brief at 0700, Ryland said. Light load, should be routine. Who's got medical? Someone asked. Davis. Not the new doc. Nah, she's staying back. Captain wants experienced hands on patrol. Sloan sipped her coffee, didn't react. Experienced hands, not her hands, even though she had 7 deployments to Davis's 3, even though she'd worked trauma in conditions these men had never seen. But Davis was a man. Davis didn't need to prove himself. She understood, didn't like it, but understood. Respect wasn't given. It was earned. She just needed an opportunity. The opportunity came at 0843 hours. Sloan was in the medical bay organizing supplies when she heard shouting outside. Medic, need a medic. She grabbed her bag and ran. The compound's physical training area was 50 meters from the medical bay. Sloan covered the distance in seconds, boots crunching through fresh snow. A crowd had formed. In the center, Private Owen Huxley lay on the ground. His face was pale, sheet white, his breathing shallow and rapid. Sweat soaked his uniform despite the 15-degree temperature. Corporal Davis knelt beside him, fingers on his carotid counting pulse. What happened? Captain Keller demanded, pushing through the crowd. He just collapsed, someone said. Middle of PT running sprints, just went down like someone cut his strings. Davis looked up. Pulses thready, 110, maybe 120. Breathing rapid and shallow, skin's diaphoretic. I think it's heat exhaustion. Heat exhaustion? Keller frowned. It's 15 degrees out. He was running hard, sir. Full gear. Probably overheated under all those layers. Body couldn't regulate. Sloan pushed through the crowd. Captain requests permission to assess. Keller glanced at her. Davis has it handled, Doc. Sir. Stand by Hartley. Sloan stood, watched, every instinct screaming. Davis was calling for blankets, hot fluids, trying to warm Huxley up. Standard heat exhaustion protocol. Wrong. Wrong. Sloan looked at Huxley's color. Not the flush of heat exhaustion. Not the red of overheating. Pale, clammy, gray. The color of shock. Of blood loss. Captain, Sloan's voice cut through the noise. Calm, professional, but with an edge of command that made men turn. Respectfully, sir, I don't think this is heat exhaustion. Keller's jaw tightened. Doc, I said, check his pupils, sir. Check his skin temperature. Check his abdomen. Davis looked up annoyed. Doc, I've got this. Corporal, when did you last assess for internal hemorrhage? Silence. Davis blinked. Why would... He's in shock, Corporal. Tachycardic, tachypneic, diaphoretic, pale. That's not heat exhaustion. That's hemorrhagic shock. Sloan knelt beside Huxley. Private, I'm going to check your stomach. This might hurt. She pressed gently on his abdomen. Right upper quadrant. Nothing. Right lower quadrant. Nothing. Left upper quadrant. Huxley screamed, a raw animal sound of pain. Rigid abdomen, Sloan said, continuing her assessment. Involuntary guarding reflex. Rebound tenderness. Pupils are equal, but sluggish. Skin is cool and clammy, not flushed. Pulse weak and rapid. Respiratory rate elevated, but shallow. She looked up at Keller. Sir Private Huxley has a ruptured spleen. He's bleeding internally, grade 3 or 4. He needs surgical intervention in under 90 minutes or he dies. Moon Thatcher stepped forward. Doc, how can you possibly diagnose the bruise, Sloan said. Yesterday, left side impact during the breaching drill. Blunt force trauma to the spleen. Delayed rupture. It happens 24 to 48 hours post-injury. The spleen holds for a while, then the capsule fails. When it does, you bleed into your peritoneal cavity. She was already moving. IV kit from her bag, 18-gauge catheter. Someone get me a blood pressure cuff. And get that medevac bird spun up now. Keller stared at her. You sure about this? Yes, sir, I'm sure. 2 IVs wide open. Get his blood pressure. He needs emergency surgery. We have maybe 60 minutes before he crashes completely. Davis. Keller looked at the other medic. Davis opened his mouth, closed it, looked at Huxley's pale, sweating face, the rigid abdomen, the clinical picture clicking into place. I didn't think to check for internal bleeding. But if Doc Hartley's right, it's Jesus, she's right. Look at him. That's hemorrhagic shock. I am right, sir. Sloan was already working. IV line in the left antecubital, another in the right. Lactated ringers running wide open. Someone get on the radio, emergency medevac. Tell them suspected grade 4 splenic rupture. Tell them we have maybe 45 minutes before decompensation. They need to fly fast. For a moment, no one moved. Then Keller nodded. You heard her. Move. The compound exploded into action. Radio operators sprinting for comms. Men clearing a landing zone. Others bringing blankets, keeping Huxley warm, but not hot. Sloan worked. Calm, methodical, every movement precise. She'd done this before. Not here, not at Kodiak 7, but in other places. Darker places, where decisions measured in seconds meant the difference between living and dying. Thatcher appeared beside her. What do you need, Doc? Keep him warm, not hot, just stable. Talk to him. Keep him conscious as long as possible. Monitor his breathing. If it changes, if he stops responding, you tell me immediately. Got it. And Master Sergeant, when that bird lands, we load fast. Every second counts now. 18 minutes later, the medevac helicopter appeared. A black dot against gray sky growing larger, rotors screaming, wind whipping snow. Touchdown. Sloan rode with Huxley to the bird. Shouted the handoff to the flight medic over the rotor wash. 24-year-old male. Suspected splenic rupture grade 4. Blunt force trauma to left flank approximately 36 hours prior. Delayed presentation. 2 large bore IVs, lactated ringers wide open. Vitals pulse 128 BP, 90/60, and dropping respirations 28 and shallow. He's compensating, but he won't be much longer. You've got maybe 30 minutes before he crashes, straight to OR. The flight medic nodded, professional, respectful. She saw it in his eyes. Recognition. One professional to another. Good catch, Doc. Damn good catch. The helicopter lifted, disappeared into gray sky. Sloan stood into the snow, blood on her gloves, sweat cooling on her skin despite the cold. Around her, the compound was silent. Captain Keller approached. Doc, sir. Hell of a call. Just doing my job, sir. Davis missed it. I missed it. Hell, I was about to tell him to warm the kid up and put him back to work. Keller studied her face. How'd you know the bruise he showed me yesterday? Mechanism of injury suggested possible splenic trauma. When he collapsed today with hemorrhagic shock presentation, I put it together. It was true, just not the whole truth. The whole truth was that Sloane Hartley had seen this exact scenario twice before, had been trained by combat surgeons who understood that pattern recognition saved lives, had learned to read injuries the way some people read books, had been Ghost Viper. Keller nodded slowly. Good work, Sergeant. Damn good work. He walked away. Master Sergeant Thatcher remained. He looked at Sloane with new eyes, calculating, assessing, reevaluating. Doc, he said quietly, where'd you really learn that experience, Master Sergeant? What kind of experience? Sloane met his gaze. Steady, gave nothing away. The kind that keeps people alive. She walked back to the medical bay. Behind her, Thatcher stood in the snow, watching, wondering. Word spread through Kodiak 7 like wildfire. The new doc saved Huxley, caught something Davis missed, caught something everyone missed, diagnosed a ruptured spleen with nothing but her hands and her brain. At 1300 hours, Keller received confirmation via satellite comm. Huxley was in surgery at Joint Base Elmendorf. Ruptured spleen, confirmed. Grade 4, massive internal hemorrhage. Another hour and he would have bled out completely. Doc Hartley saved his life. That evening, the chow hall was different. Men nodded to Sloane as she entered. Respectful, some even stood. Sergeant Ryland caught her eye and gave a small nod of acknowledgement. Doc, hell of a save today. Thank you, Sergeant. I mean it. Huxley's got a wife, 2 kids back in North Carolina. You gave him back to them. Sloane nodded, didn't smile, didn't accept praise easily. Just glad we caught it in time. She sat at her usual corner table. This time she wasn't alone. Corporal Dalton approached, set his tray down across from her, hesitated. Mind if I sit, Doc? It's a free country, Corporal. Dalton sat, ate in silence for a moment. Then, I was wrong yesterday, the med kit thing. I should have let you check it. You clearly know what you're doing. It's fine, Corporal. It's not. Dalton looked at her, young face, old eyes, the look of someone who'd seen enough to know when to admit a mistake. You knew what you were doing. I assumed you didn't. That was wrong. That was unprofessional. Sloane studied him, proud, but willing to admit fault. There was honor in that. Apology accepted, Corporal. Can you check my kit tomorrow before patrol? I'd appreciate your expertise. Of course. Dalton nodded, went back to eating. Across the room, Lieutenant Carver watched, thinking, processing, reevaluating assumptions. In the corner, Master Sergeant Thatcher watched, calculating, wondering what else Staff Sergeant Sloane Hartley was hiding. They'd seen Sloane the medic, competent, professional, exceptional even. But there were still questions, still gaps in her file, still something in the way she moved that didn't quite fit. The way her eyes tracked distances when she thought no one was watching. The way her fingers tapped that rhythm on tables on walls on her own thigh. The way she'd adjusted that M240 like she'd done it 1,000 times. Small things, easy to miss unless you knew what to look for. And Thatcher was starting to suspect there was far more to Staff Sergeant Sloane Hartley than anyone realized. That night, Sloane stood in the weapons maintenance bay, alone. The tarp in the corner had come loose, disturbed by someone's careless passage. Underneath, she could see it, Barrett M82, A1, 50 caliber, 31 pounds 4 ounces. Effective range 1,800 meters, maximum range 4,000. She knew the weapon like she knew her own heartbeat, had fired thousands of rounds through dozens of Barretts, had learned every quirk, every tendency, every mechanical idiosyncrasy, had been one with this weapon in ways most shooters never achieved. Her hand reached out, stopped 6 inches from the metal, pulled back. No, she'd made a promise. To her mother, to herself, to the memory of a little girl who died because Sloane had pulled a trigger. Never touch a rifle again. Never take a life again. She was a healer now, only a healer. Sloane turned away, walked back to the medical bay. Behind her, the Barrett sat in shadow, waiting. Because somewhere deep in Sloane Hartley's mind, in the part she tried to bury beneath medical knowledge and healing hands, she knew the truth. Outpost Kodiak 7 sat in hostile territory. Enemy forces probed the perimeter daily. Patrols went out and came back missing men. The perimeter was shrinking. The enemy was getting bolder. And sooner or later, healing wouldn't be enough. Sooner or later, she'd have to choose the promise she'd made or the lives she could save. As Sloane lay in her bunk that night, staring at darkness, she felt it coming, like a storm on the horizon. Inevitable, unstoppable. And when it arrived, everyone would learn the truth about the quiet medic who kept to herself. Everyone would learn what Sloane Hartley really was, what she'd always been, beneath the healer's hands, beneath the promise, beneath the guilt. A weapon. Waiting. The radio crackled at 0324 hours. Captain Keller was awake instantly. Years of combat had trained him to sleep light. The slightest sound, the smallest change in the compound's ambient noise, and his eyes opened. He grabbed the handset. Kodiak 7, this is Research Station Echo. Do you copy the static? Heavy, then again weaker, more desperate. Kodiak 7, anyone, please. Keller keyed the transmit. Echo Station, this is Kodiak 7 Actual. Send your traffic. The voice that came back was female, strained, fighting panic and losing. This is Dr. Meredith Voss, Atmospheric Research Team. Station partially collapsed in the storm. I'm trapped. Multiple injuries. Please, I don't know how much longer I can. More static. Worse this time. Echo Station, say again your status. Nothing. Keller tried twice more. Dead air, not even static. Just the empty hiss of an open channel going nowhere. He checked the map. Research Station Echo sat 1.2 kilometers east of Kodiak 7, civilian facility. Three-person scientific team studying atmospheric conditions and climate patterns in extreme environments. He'd met them once during a courtesy visit. Dr. Voss was the lead researcher, late 30s, serious, dedicated, the kind of scientist who came to Alaska in winter because the data was better. Now she was dying alone in the dark. Keller hit the alarm. 30 seconds later, the command bunker filled with men in various states of dress, combat leaders, senior enlisted, and standing quietly in the back corner, medical bag, already packed Staff Sergeant Sloane Hartley. Listen up, Keller said. We have a civilian distress call. Research Station Echo, one survivor, multiple injuries, unknown hostile presence in the area. Lieutenant Carver studied the map, already shaking his head. Sir, that's over a kilometer through open terrain. In daylight with air support maybe, but in the dark with possible enemy contact. I'm aware of the risks, Lieutenant. Master Sergeant Thatcher leaned over the map. Standard approach would be suppressive fire armored extraction. But we don't have armor here, and suppression in this terrain means exposing our people for at least 90 minutes, maybe more in this weather. Sergeant Ryland added, Intel shows enemy sniper activity in sectors Delta and Echo. They've been probing our perimeter for 3 days straight. This could be bait. Classic tactic. Civilian in distress, we respond. They hit us in the open. Silence settled over the room. Heavy, uncomfortable, the weight of impossible choices. So we leave her. Corporal Dalton's voice was quiet, angry. That what you're saying? I didn't say that. Thatcher's jaw tightened. I'm saying we need a plan that doesn't get more people killed trying to save one. From the back of the room, Sloane spoke. Captain. Every head turned. Dr. Voss's transmission indicated severe trauma. Based on her voice patterns, respiratory rate, level of distress, I'd estimate she has maybe 75 minutes before hypothermia becomes irreversible. Probably less if she's bleeding, possibly much less if she's trapped in an unheated section. Keller studied her. Go on. Current suppression plan takes over 2 hours to execute. By then, we're extracting a corpse. Thatcher's eyes narrowed. You got a better idea, Doc. Sloane stepped to the map. Her finger traced a line along the terrain with absolute confidence. Dry Creek bed runs northeast. Below sight lines from these ridge positions, she tapped 3 points in rapid succession. Wind funnels through here, noise discipline will be critical, but it provides sound cover for movement. Approach from northwest keeps us in defilade until the final 200 meters. We'll be exposed for maybe 90 seconds. Not 90 minutes. The room went silent. Lieutenant Carver stared at the route, then at Sloane, then back at the map. Doc, that's advanced tactical planning. That's not something you learn in hospital corpsman school. It's the smart route, Sloane said simply. How do you know the terrain that well? Carver's voice carried open suspicion now. You've been here 3 weeks. I've been studying these maps for 2 months and I didn't see that approach. I study maps, Lieutenant, part of medical planning. Need to know where casualties might occur and how to extract them efficiently. It was reasonable, logical, professional, also incomplete. The truth was that Sloane had memorized every square meter of terrain within 5 kilometers of Kodiak 7. Had spent her first week identifying dead ground cover routes, optimal firing positions, rally points. Had mapped the area in her mind with the precision of someone trained to survive in hostile terrain. Had done it as Ghost Viper. Keller studied the route, then Sloan. This workmaster sergeant, Thatcher examined the map, checked elevations against the topographical lines, sight lines from known enemy positions, wind patterns based on terrain funneling. He took his time, thorough. Finally, he nodded. It's solid, better than our plan, significantly better. Then we use it. Keller straightened. Thatcher, Carver, Ryland, Dalton. You're with me. Light load, fast movement. We need to be back before sunrise. Sir, Sloane's voice cut through, request permission to accompany. Negative, too dangerous. With respect, Captain Dr. Voss has multiple traumatic injuries in a cold environment. Field stabilization will require immediate advanced care beyond basic first aid. I have significantly more experience with complex trauma management than Corporal Davis. It was true, everyone in the room knew it. Huxley's save had proven that beyond doubt. Keller hesitated, weighed the risks, then nodded. Gear up, we move in 10 minutes. But you stay behind us, Doc. You're medical, not combat. Yes, sir. The room emptied. Sloan headed for the medical bay. Behind her, she heard Lieutenant Carver speak quietly to Thatcher. Something's not right about her. What do you mean? That route, that terrain analysis. That's not medic training, that's infantry. Maybe recon. She mapped dead ground like she's done it 1,000 times. Maybe she's just smart. Maybe. Carver's voice dropped lower. Or maybe she's a lot more than she's telling us. Sloan kept walking. She'd heard suspicion before. She'd hear it again, as long as they never found the whole truth. The night was colder than death. Temperature had dropped to -22. Wind cut through layers like they weren't there, finding skin-stealing heat, making every breath burn. The 6-person team moved in tactical column. Keller on point, infrared marker, barely visible on his back. Thatcher second heavy weapon ready. Sloan third medical bag strapped tight, M4 rifle slung across her back. The standard issue they'd given her. Not the weapon she would have chosen. Not the weapon she'd been trained on. Not the Barrett M8 2A1 that sat in the weapons cache wrapped in canvas waiting. They reached the dry creek bed in 12 minutes. Sloan had been right. The terrain provided perfect defilade. Wind howled overhead 30 miles per hour, gusting to 40, masking any sound they made. Keller hand signaled a halt, checked his GPS. They'd covered 800 meters. 400 to go. He raised his fist. The signal to move. That's when the first shot cracked. The round snapped past Ryland's head, close enough to feel the pressure wave. Close enough to hear the supersonic crack, distinctly separate from the distant report. He dropped flat. Contact right, Thatcher shouted. Another shot. This one kicked up snow beside Carver's boot, sending ice crystals spraying. The team scattered, found what cover existed in the creek bed. Rocks, frozen earth. Not much, not enough. Sloan pressed herself against the creek bed wall. Her heart rate climbed. 80 beats per minute. 90. 95. She forced it down. Old training, old rhythm. The one her father had taught her. The one she'd promised never to use. 4 seconds in. 7 hold. 8 out. Stop it. Another shot. Another, walking toward their positions. Methodical. Professional. Disciplined. Sniper, Thatcher growled. Elevated position. Range. Maybe 800 meters. Can't get a fix in this weather. Keller keyed his radio. Kodiak 7, this is extraction team. Taking accurate fire from... A round struck the rock beside him. Stone fragments peppered his face, drawing blood. He cursed. 400 meters from Dr. Voss. Pinned down. Unable to advance. Unable to retreat without exposing themselves to precision fire. Ryland low-crawled to Keller's position. Sir, we can't move. That shooter has us completely locked down. Can you suppress? Not at this range, not accurately, not with M4s. Another shot. This one close to Dalton, close enough to make him flinch. Sloan's mind calculated automatically. Pattern recognition. Muscle memory she tried to bury. Shot interval 12 seconds. Consistent. The shooter was confident. Taking time between shots. No rush. Professional. Wind direction northeast 15 miles per hour, sustained gusting to 18. Consistent enough for precision work. Distance based on the time delay between muzzle flash barely visible in the snow and sound arrival approximately 820 meters. Elevated position ridgeline probably 30 to 35 meters above their current elevation based on the angle of impact. Her hands knew what to do. Her training screamed at her. Everything she'd learned in Scout Sniper School, everything her father had taught her, she could make that shot. She knew exactly how to make that shot. But she'd promised. After Syria, after the girl, never again. Dr. Voss's voice echoed in her memory. Weak, desperate. Please, I don't know how much longer. 75 minutes. Probably less now. Bleeding, cold, dying alone. Sloane closed her eyes, saw a different face. A little girl, 7 years old. Dark hair, wide eyes filled with fear in the moment before no. She opened her eyes, looked at Keller, at Thatcher, at the team trap because one enemy sniper controlled the terrain. She made her choice. Captain, her voice was steady, calm. Request permission to engage the threat. Keller stared at her. Doc, with what your M4 can't reach that far. None of ours can. Not with the M4, sir. Understanding dawned slowly across his face. What are you saying? I need access to the weapons cache, the long gun. Silence. Wind howled. Snow whipped. Another shot cracked. Thatcher's eyes locked on hers, hard, assessing. Doc, that Barrett weighs 30 pounds unloaded. You're what, 120 soaking wet. 31 pounds, 4 ounces, Sloane said, and I know exactly what it weighs. I know the recoil profile. I know the sight picture, and I can make that shot. More silence. Wefan. Keller looked at Thatcher. Some unspoken communication passed between them. Finally, Keller nodded. Dalton, get her to the cache, fast. They moved low and fast through the creek bed. The weapons cache sat in a sheltered position 50 meters back. Dalton opened it with shaking hands. Inside, wrapped in weatherproof canvas, the Barrett M82A1. Sloane unwrapped it. The weight settled into her hands like coming home, like picking up something she'd lost, something she'd missed, something she'd sworn never to touch again. Her hands moved automatically, magazine seated, bolt racked with that distinctive heavy click. Chamber checked, bipod deployed, safety off. Dalton watched, mouth open. Doc, where did you get back to the captain? I need quiet. But now, Corporal, that's an order. Dalton retreated, glancing back twice, face full of questions. Sloane found a position, prone, snow seeping cold through her uniform. Barrett's weight distributed properly. Bipod stable on frozen ground. Body position correct. Left leg bent. Right leg straight. Natural point of aim. She looked through the scope. The world narrowed. Became simple. Mathematical. Pure. Target enemy sniper visible as a dark shape against lighter snow. 820 meters. Elevated 32 meters. Wind northeast 15 miles per hour, gusting to 18. Her breathing slowed. The rhythm her father had taught her. 4 seconds in, 7 hold, 8 out. Heart rate dropped. 90, 80, 70, 65, 60. Windage compensation 3.4 mils right. Maybe 3.6 with the gusts. Split the difference. Elevation 7.8 mils up. Cold air was denser. Rounds flew slightly different. Adjust down 0.2 mils. 7.6. Her finger found the trigger. Not pulling, just resting. Feeling the tension, the resistance, knowing exactly when it would break. The enemy sniper fired again. Sloane tracked the muzzle flash. Logged the exact position in her mind. She had him. In her mind, a voice. Her father's voice. The one that had taught her this. The one she heard in every scope sight picture. Steady, Sloane. Read the wind. Trust your training. Trust yourself. Another voice. Her own. Younger. Eager. I've got him, Dad. Then take the shot, Ghost. But there was another voice too. Screaming. A child's voice. The last sound the little girl had made before the bullet meant for her father tore through her small body. Sloane's finger tightened. The Barrett roared. Recoil slammed into her shoulder. Familiar, almost comforting. The sound of Ghost Viper waking up. Through the scope, she saw the impact. Center mass. The enemy sniper jerked like a puppet with cut strings. Fell. Didn't move again. Sloane chambered another round. The heavy bolt action, smooth under her hand. Scanned for additional threats through the scope. Movement, second position. 400 meters from the first. Another shooter relocating. Either backup or a spotter moving to a better position. 890 meters now. Crosswind stronger at that elevation. Target moving left to right approximately 3 miles per hour. Windage 4.1 mils, maybe 4.3. Target moving, lead required. Elevation 8.3 mils, lead 2.7 mil left. Her breathing never changed. Heart rate held steady at 62. In the zone, the place where Ghost Viper lived. She fired. The target dropped mid-stride, went down hard, didn't get up. 2 shots. 2 hits, 2 dead. Sloan cleared the chamber, safed the weapon, stood. Her shoulder ached where the recoil had hammered. Tomorrow there'd be bruising. Deep, purple, the kind that lasted weeks. She didn't care. She walked back to the team's position carrying the Barrett. 6 men stared at her, silent, shocked, mouths open. Sergeant Ryland found his voice first. "What the actual fuck, Doc?" Sloan didn't answer. She looked at Captain Keller, met his eyes. "Route's clear, sir. We should move. Dr. Voss doesn't have much time left." Keller opened his mouth, closed it, opened it again. "Doc, where did you learn to shoot like that?" "My father taught me, Captain." Sloan's voice was flat, empty of emotion, the voice of someone who'd locked everything down. "Can we move now? Sir Dr. Voss is dying." For a moment, Keller just stared. Then training kicked in. Mission first, questions later. "You heard her. Move out. Fast." They advanced through the creek bed. Fast now. No more shots. No more threats. The path to research station echoed clear. The station was a disaster. Roof partially collapsed under snow weight. Equipment scattered. One wall buckled inward from structural failure. They found Dr. Voss in what had been the main lab, pinned under a support beam that had fallen when the roof gave way. Left leg crushed at an unnatural angle, bone visible through torn pants. Blood matted her hair from a scalp laceration. Face pale as paper, lips blue. Hypothermia setting in, but alive. Barely. Sloan dropped to her knees beside the trapped woman. "Dr. Voss, I'm Staff Sergeant Hartley, Navy Corpsman. You're going to be okay. Do you understand me? You are going to be okay." Voss's eyes fluttered open, barely focused. "Hurt, so cold, can't feel my leg." "I know, we're getting you out. Hold on." Sloan worked. IV line in the right arm, lactated ringers wide open. Pain management morphine carefully dosed for someone hypothermic. Tourniquet on the crushed leg above the injury. Pressure dressing on the scalp laceration. Stabilization collar for suspected spinal injury. Her hands moved with absolute confidence. This was her element. What she'd trained for. What she was good at. What she'd promised to do instead of killing. While she worked, Thatcher and Dalton positioned themselves to lift the beam. "On 3, Thatcher said. 1, 2, 3. They lifted, carefully, slowly. The beam came up. Voss screamed a sound of pure agony that echoed through the ruined station. "Almost there, Doctor." Sloan's voice stayed calm, reassuring, professional. "Almost done. Just a few more seconds." Beam clear. Sloan immediately began splinting the leg. It was bad. Compound fracture. Tibia and fibula both. Bone fragments visible through the torn flesh. Heavy bleeding, controlled by the tourniquet. But Voss would live. Probably keep the leg if they moved fast enough. They rigged a litter from equipment cases and cargo straps. Started the journey back through the cold and dark. Halfway to Kodiak 7, as they moved through a narrow service trench that cut between 2 ridges, Sloan raised her fist suddenly. The team froze. She'd heard something. Ahead, through the wind, movement that didn't match natural patterns. She signaled the team to hold position. Move forward alone. Bear it up. Not raised aggressively. Balanced. Ready. Professional. The trench narrowed ahead. Wind screamed through it like something alive and angry. 30 meters ahead, a figure emerged from the swirling snow. Another human shape. Tall, broad, holding a long rifle. They both stopped. Both rifles came up. Not hurried, not panicked. 2 professionals recognizing a mirror. The wind howled between them. Snow obscured details. But Sloan could see enough. Military bearing, precision weapon, confident stance. Another sniper. For several seconds, nothing happened. 2 professionals, 2 rifles. 30 meters. Either could fire first. Either could end this. Then the other figure spoke. Male voice. Accent. Russian maybe. Calm. Almost conversational. No threat in the tone. "You shoot like Ghost Viper." The words hit Sloan harder than any recoil. Her breathing stalled. Heart rate spiked, then dropped as training reasserted control. That call sign, that name, hadn't been spoken aloud in 3 years. Not in briefings, not in whispers, not in nightmares. Nowhere. The figure shifted slightly. She could see the outline of his face behind goggles and a balaclava. Eyes visible. Calm. Assessing. "Legend said Ghost Viper disappeared," he continued. "After Syria and after the girl." Sloan's chest tightened. How did he know? How could he possibly know? Who are you? Doesn't matter. The rifle stayed up but not aimed at her, pointed slightly away. Professional courtesy. I was there. Different side, different mission. But I saw the aftermath, heard the story. 7-year-old child. Acceptable collateral damage, they said. Silence. Wind filled the space where words should be. You vanished after that, he said. Smart. Can't be a weapon if you refuse to fire. Sloane's rifle lowered a few centimeters. I save people now. I saw. He gestured back toward the research station with his free hand. 2 perfect shots. 800 to 900 meters. In this wind. In the dark. Saved your team. Then you come here. Save the woman. Risk your life for a civilian. He paused. Studied her. That is not the ghost viper I heard about. Good. Sloane's voice was quiet, barely audible over the wind, because Ghost Viper is dead. The man was silent for a moment, then maybe, evolved. He lowered his rifle completely, slung it across his back, hands visible, empty, non-threatening. I could have taken that shot on your team, he said, at the station, while you were busy with the woman. You were exposed for 45 seconds. Easy shot. Clean. Why didn't you? Because you let my people go after the first 2 shots. You tracked them withdrawing, had them in your scope, could have killed 4 more. Didn't. Sloane said nothing. But it was true. She'd had clean shots on the retreating enemy forces, had deliberately let them go. That is not Ghost Viper either, he continued. Ghost Viper never showed mercy, never hesitated. 47 kills, 0 mercy. But this, he gestured at her, this is something different. Something better, perhaps. Another pause. Snow swirled between them like static. I left too, he said quietly. After too many faces, too many ghosts. Thought fighting for money instead of country would be easier. It wasn't. The faces still come. The ghosts still visit. Sloane understood, more than he knew. East, he said finally. Simple. Direct. Sloane understood the offer. The agreement. West. No handshakes. No dramatic gestures, no names exchanged, just mutual understanding between 2 people who knew exactly what they were capable of doing and chose not to. They both took a step back, then another. They turned, walked away. No shots fired, no bodies added to the snow, no violence necessary, only distance growing between 2 professionals who understood the weight of every trigger pull, who carried ghosts, who'd chosen mercy over mission. Sloane rejoined her team 60 seconds later. No one asked where she'd been. The look on her face, cold, distant, locked down, told them not to. They reached Kodiak 7 at 0612 hours. Sloane transferred Voss directly to the medical bay. Continued treatment. Stabilized vitals. Called for medevac through satellite comm. The helicopter arrived at 0734. Sloane gave the handoff to the flight medic. Professional. Detailed. Complete. 37-year-old female, multiple traumatic injuries. Compound tib-fib fracture, left leg with significant soft tissue damage. Scalp laceration, moderate blood loss. Hypothermia, moderate. 2 large bore IVs, lactated ringers. Morphine 10 milligrams IV for pain. Vitals currently stable. She needs orthopedic surgery within 6 hours for the leg. Prognosis good if you move fast. Then she stood in the snow, watching the bird disappear into gray morning sky. Her shoulder throbbed from recoil bruising. Blood had soaked through her uniform from where the Barrett had hammered her. She'd need to change. Clean the wounds. Pretend it was nothing. Behind her, footsteps in snow. Lieutenant Carver. Sergeant Hartley? Lieutenant. I pulled your service record. Again. Deeper this time. Sloane's expression didn't change. Yes, sir. 14-month gap. 2021 to 2022. Classified. I called in favors. Hit a wall above my clearance. Paperwork errors, sir. Ghost Viper. Carver's voice was quiet, certain. That's what the enemy's sniper called you. We heard it on comms. He knew that name. How? Sloane turned to face him, met his eyes. You misheard, Lieutenant. Did I? Not a question, a challenge. What does it mean? It means nothing. A mistake. Confusion in combat, enemy propaganda, psychological warfare. Carver studied her face, looking for cracks, for tells, for any sign of deception. He found nothing. Years of training made her face a mask. Right, he said finally. My mistake. Must have misheard. He walked away. But Sloane knew he didn't believe her. Knew he'd keep digging. She stood alone. The wind cut through her uniform. blood cooling on her shoulder. Ghost Viper, the name she'd buried, the identity she'd tried to kill, the legend she'd tried to leave in Syria with the bodies and the ghosts and the little girl's face. But you couldn't kill what you were, only what you chose to do with it. Inside the command bunker, Captain Keller sat across from Master Sergeant Thatcher. "We need answers," Keller said. "Real answers, not deflections." "Agreed." Thatcher pulled out a tablet. "I did some digging, called in every favor I had. Most of Hartley's record is clean. Standard deployment rotations, good performance reviews, commendations for medical excellence. But there's that gap, 14 months. And when I tried to dig deeper," Thatcher shook his head, "hit a wall. Classification level I've never seen before. Above my clearance, above yours, above the battalion commanders." "What does that tell you?" "Special operations. Tier 1, Black Ops. Something buried so deep it might as well not exist." Keller leaned back. "And now she's here, at Kodiak 7, as a medic, making shots that professional snipers couldn't make." "Hiding," Thatcher said. "Or running. From what? That's the question." They sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Keller stood. "Bring her in. I want answers. All of them." Thatcher nodded, left. Returned 10 minutes later with Sloan. She stood at attention before them. Professional, calm, like she wasn't covered in blood and hadn't just made 2 impossible shots in the dark. Keller gestured to a chair. "Sit, Sergeant." "I'm fine standing, sir." It wasn't a request. Sloan sat, hands in her lap, calm, controlled. Keller studied her, small, quiet, unassuming, the kind of person who disappeared in crowds, who you'd never notice, the kind of person who'd just saved his entire team. "Doc," he said quietly, "I need the truth, all of it. No more deflections, no more half answers. Who are you really?" "I've been truthful, sir." "Have you?" Keller slid a folder across the table. 14 months. Classified. "Where were you? And what the hell is Ghost Viper?" Sloan looked at the folder, didn't touch it. Long pause. She was calculating, deciding how much to reveal, whether to keep running or finally stop. Finally, she spoke. "My father was Gunnery Sergeant Everett Hartley, Marine Force Recon, served in Desert Storm. After he retired in 2003, he taught survival courses, marksmanship, tactical planning. He was one of the best." She paused, memory softening her voice slightly. "He started teaching me when I was 11 years old. Took me to the range every weekend. Said I was the best natural shooter he'd ever seen. Could read wind like some people read books. Had instinct for distance elevation compensation. When I enlisted at 18, I listed those skills on my application. Navy took notice, attached me to various special operations elements during my deployments, support role officially, medical coverage for high-risk operations. But unofficially," another pause. Longer. This was the line. Cross it, and there was no going back. "Designated marksman, Syria, 2021. Her voice went flat. Empty. "They called me Ghost Viper. 47 confirmed kills, 0 misses. I was very good at it." The room went silent. Thatcher's eyes widened slightly. "DEV, GRU support element. Black operation. Classified above your clearance, above mine now. Mission eliminate ISIS cell leader, high-value target. Meeting with foreign arms dealers in a compound outside Raqqa." Sloane's hands resting on her knees tightened slightly. "Intelligence said the meeting room was adults only. High-value targets. Weapons dealers. Command structure. I had the shot, 1,180 meters. Perfect conditions. Clear sight, picture. Target acquisition confirmed by command." Her voice went even flatter. Dead, like she was describing something that happened to someone else. Intel was wrong. Keller felt something cold settle in his stomach. Target's daughter was in the room, 7 years old. They hadn't briefed us. Didn't know she was there. She'd been at a friend's house. Came home early. Sloane's eyes stayed fixed on the wall, not seeing it, seeing something else, somewhere else. 3 years ago. She ran to her father, right as I squeezed the trigger. Probably heard something. Wanted to tell him. "I don't know. I'll never know." Silence. Heavy. Crushing. Bullet went through her first. Center mass. She died before she hit the ground. Target survived. Threw himself behind cover. Mission failed. More silence. Keller and Thatcher didn't move. Didn't breathe. Command called it acceptable collateral damage. Shit happens in war. Mission parameters were clear. I'd followed orders. Done everything right. Clean shot given available intelligence. No fault assigned. Sloan finally looked at Keller. Her eyes were dry. No tears, just emptiness. I couldn't accept that. A 7-year-old girl, dead because I pulled a trigger. Dead because intelligence missed something. Dead because following orders mattered more than knowing who I was killing. I requested immediate discharge. They refused. I threatened to go public. That changed things. They classified the entire operation. Buried my sniper designation. Erased Ghost Viper from official records. Reassigned me as standard hospital corpsman. Made me sign enough ND as to fill a footlocker. And I made my mother a promise. Never touch a rifle again. Never take a life again. Only save them. Only heal. Be something better than a weapon. She stood. Until today, I broke that promise. Because Dr. Voss would be dead otherwise. Because your team would be dead otherwise. Because healing wasn't enough. Keller and Thatcher sat motionless. Processing. Understanding. So, yes, Captain, I was Ghost Viper. Now I'm just Doc. And I'd very much like to keep it that way. She headed for the door. Permission to return to duty, sir. I have patients to check on. Keller found his voice. Granted. Sloan left. The two men sat in silence for a full minute. Finally, Thatcher spoke. Jesus Christ. Yeah. She's been carrying that for 3 years, the girl, the guilt, everything. Yeah. And she broke her promise today. For us. For a civilian she'd never met. Keller nodded slowly, thinking, processing, reevaluating everything. Then the compound alarm sounded. They ran to the operations center. The radio operator looked up, face pale. Sir, we've got enemy movement. Multiple contacts. Advancing on our position from the north. At least 12 hostiles, armed. Moving with purpose. Keller checked the displays. Thermal imaging showed the advancing force. Professional. Disciplined. Dangerous. Defensive positions, he ordered. All personnel armed and ready. This is not a drill. The compound scrambled into organized chaos. Within minutes, fighting positions manned. Weapons oriented outward toward the approaching threat. The enemy appeared at the tree line, 800 meters out, moving in tactical bounds, cover to cover. They knew what they were doing. Ryland tried to engage with his M4, fired a burst. Too far, rounds fell short by 100 meters. The enemy knew it, moved confidently, deliberately, advancing. Then one of them dropped. Everyone froze. Another shot, another enemy down. Clean, precise. The hostile force scattered, dove for cover, began returning fire wildly, inaccurately. Suppressive fire, panic fire. But they didn't know where the shots were coming from. Keller grabbed binoculars, scanned the compound frantically. Found her. Sloan, prone on the eastern bunker roof. Barrett deployed, scope to eye, calm, professional, in her element, Ghost Viper. As he watched, she fired again. 1,220 meters, crosswind gusting 18 to 22 miles per hour. Target partially concealed behind a tree. Hit. The target went down. The enemy assault broke. Started retreating. Fast. Disorganized. All tactical discipline gone. 3 minutes later, silence. They were gone. Keller climbed to the bunker roof on shaking legs. Sloan was safing the Barrett. Her movements precise, mechanical, professional. Doc. Sir. How many? 3 confirmed, 2 probables. The rest withdrew. Keller looked at the distant tree line, looked back at her, at this small woman who'd just broken an assault single-handedly. You just saved us. Again. Sloan stared at the distant tree line, not speaking. That last shot, Keller said quietly. 1,200 meters, in that wind, partial concealment, moving target. 1,220, actually, wind 18 to 22 gusting. Target moving approximately 2 miles per hour left to right. Not impossible, just difficult. For most people. Yes, sir. Keller stepped closer. The girl in Syria, that's a tragedy. A real one, a genuine tragedy. But punishing yourself by hiding what you can do, that doesn't honor her memory. It just wastes what you are. Sloan looked at him, really looked. For the first time, he saw emotion in her eyes. Pain, guilt, confusion. You have a gift, Keller continued, an extraordinary gift. Today, that gift saved lives, not took them. Saved them. You healed Dr. Voss. You protected this team. You did both, not one or the other. Both. Sloan was quiet. Think about it, Doc. That's all I'm asking. Think about what it means to honor that girl. Does it mean burying yourself? Or does it mean using everything you are to save others? Keller descended the ladder. Sloane remained, alone on the roof, wind cutting through her uniform, Barrett cooling beside her, in her mind, three images now. The little girl's face, frozen in that last moment. Dr. Voss's face, grateful, alive. The enemy sniper who'd called her Ghost Viper and walked away. Could she live with all of it? Could she be healer and weapon, medic and marksman, lifesaver and life taker? Could she forgive herself enough to try? As the sun rose over the Alaska range, painting the snow gold and red and purple, Sloane Hartley began to understand. Maybe healing didn't mean never fighting. Maybe it meant knowing when to do both. Maybe Ghost Viper hadn't died in Syria with that little girl. Maybe she'd just been reborn as something better. Something more complete. Something more human. Someone who could save lives with one hand and protect them with the other. Someone who understood that mercy and strength weren't opposites. Someone who'd learned the hardest lesson, that the truest strength was knowing when to pull the trigger and when to let it rest. One mission, keep the team alive, whatever it takes. End of part 2. The mortars came at dawn. No warning, no buildup, no intelligence intercept, no sensor alert. Just the whistle of incoming rounds and the instant understanding that everything had changed. The first shell hit the northern perimeter. Explosion, shockwave that rattled teeth, snow and frozen earth thrown skyward in a fountain of white and black. Sloane was in the medical bay when the compound alarm screamed. She grabbed her bag and ran, boots pounding on frozen ground. Outside chaos, men scrambling to defensive positions, weapons brought to bear, shouting, confusion. The fog of sudden combat. Captain Keller emerged from the command bunker already wearing his combat harness, rifle in hand. Defensive positions, this is not a drill move. The second mortar hit closer. East wall. The explosion shook the ground like an earthquake. Metal fragments screamed through the air. Men dropped, cursing, seeking cover. Sloane ran toward the impact site. Training took over. Everything her father taught her, everything the Corps taught her. Find the wounded, stabilize. Evacuate, repeat. She found the first casualty near the ammunition bunker. Corporal Evan Dalton, on his back. Left leg torn open from knee to groin. Blood pumping. Arterial. Bright red. Too much. Too fast. Femoral artery. Sloane dropped to her knees beside him, bag already open. Dalton, stay with me. Doc, I can't feel my leg, I can't. His voice high, panicked, going into shock. Look at me. Her voice cut through his panic like a blade, sharp, commanding. The voice of someone who'd done this before, many times. You're going to be fine, you hear me? You're going to be fine. She worked with the speed of experience. Combat gauze packed deep into the wound. Hands moving faster than thought. Tourniquets cinched high on the thigh, above the injury, above the bleeding. Twist the windlass. One turn, 2, 3, until the blood flow stopped, until the bright red fountain became a seep, then a trickle, then stopped. Mark the time on his forehead in grease pencil. 0641 hours, 45 seconds from drop to controlled bleeding. Hold pressure here, she told Dalton. Don't move, don't touch the tourniquet. I'll be back. Another explosion, western bunker this time. Closer. The blast wave knocked snow from the roof. Sloane ran. She found Sergeant Gage Ryland slumped against a wall, conscious but breathing wrong. Short, rapid, gasping like a fish on dry land. Ryland, where are you hit? Chest. Can't breathe right. Something's wrong. Sloane ripped open his jacket. No external bleeding, no visible wounds, but his trachea was deviated, shifted to the right. Left side of his chest wasn't moving properly with his breathing. Tension pneumothorax, air trapped in chest cavity from blunt force trauma. Building pressure, collapsing the lung, shifting organs, would kill him in minutes if untreated. She grabbed a 14-gauge needle from her bag, found the landmark between his ribs. Second intercostal space, mid-clavicular line, the textbook position. Inserted the needle without hesitation. The hiss of released pressure was immediate and loud, like opening a pressure cooker. Ryland gasped. Real breathing returned. Color came back to his face. Stay here, she ordered. I'll get you to the bunker. Just keep breathing, slow and steady. Doc, they're coming. Sloane heard it then. Small arms fire. Not random, not panicked, disciplined, professional, advancing. She looked east through smoke and snow. Enemy assault element, maybe 20 fighters, using the mortar barrage as cover, moving fast. Tactical bounds, cover to cover, professional. 900 meters out. Lieutenant Carver appeared beside her, breathing hard. Doc, we need to fall back. They're going to overrun the perimeter. We can't hold against this many. Get casualties to secondary bunker. Sloane's voice was ice. Command voice. The voice she'd used in Syria. Now, Lieutenant, what are you? She was already moving, running not away from the fight, but toward it, toward the eastern bunker, where the weapons were stored, where the Barrett was waiting. She grabbed the rifle. 31 pounds, 4 ounces felt light in her hands now. Natural, like an extension of her body, sprinted to the roof access ladder. Climbed one-handed, Barrett slung across her back. Behind her, more explosions, more shouting. Private Owen Huxley calling out he was hit. Shrapnel wounds. Bleeding. Sloane couldn't help him yet. Had to suppress the assault first. Had to buy time for the wounded to be moved. Had to do what no one else could. Had to be Ghost Viper. She reached the roof, dropped prone. Barrett deployed. The familiar weight settled against her shoulder like coming home. The advancing enemy was at 700 meters. Moving in tactical bounds, fire team rushes, covering each other. They knew what they were doing. Professionals. Sloane's breathing slowed automatically. The rhythm her father taught her. The rhythm of Ghost Viper. Heart rate dropped from 90 to 70 to 65 to 60. She acquired the first target. Lead ammunition on. PKM machine gunner setting up a support position. The most dangerous threat. Take him first. Calculated win. Distance. Drop. Cold air. All the variables. Fired. The Barrett roared. Recoil slammed into her shoulder. Familiar. Right. The machine gunner fell. The assault element scattered. Confused. They'd expected mortars and small arms, not precision fire from nowhere. Sloane worked the bolt. Heavy, smooth, mechanical precision. Found the second target. Squad leader, gesturing orders to his men, trying to reorganize, trying to regain control. 980 meters now. Crosswind shifted. Northeast to north. 12 miles per hour. She adjusted, fired, hit. The squad leader went down. Leadership decapitated. The assault started to falter. Third target. Enemy designated marksman setting up on a ridge. 1,150 meters. Long shot, moving target in wind. She tracked him through the scope. Let her training take over. Let instinct and mathematics merge. Let Ghost Viper do what Ghost Viper did best. Fired. The marksman dropped mid-movement. Didn't get up. 3 shots. 3 hits. The assault stalled, but there were still wounded below. Still people bleeding. Still people who needed her. Sloane safed the Barrett. Climbed down from the roof. Found Huxley. Shrapnel wounds across his right arm and shoulder. Bleeding but not arterial. Not immediately life-threatening. She packed the wounds quickly with hemostatic gauze. Pressure. Bandages. Get to the bunker. Now, Private. Doc, I can still fight. You can still bleed out. Move. That's an order. Enemy fire intensified. They'd regrouped. Angry now. Focused. Sloane ran back to the ladder, back to the roof, back to the Barrett. Back to being the weapon she tried to bury. She settled behind the scope. Found targets through the swirling snow and smoke. Fired. Worked the bolt. Fired again. 1,220 meters. 1,340. Each shot deliberate. Controlled. Precise. 2 more hits. The enemy assault broke completely. Started withdrawing, retreating, running. Sloane tracked them through her scope. Could drop 2 more before they reached cover. Easy shots. Clean sight pictures. Targets running in open ground. Her finger rested on the trigger. They were running. Retreating. No longer an immediate threat to the compound. Tactically, she could justify the shots. Enemy combatants. Legitimate targets. But tactically sound and necessary weren't always the same thing. The enemy sniper's words echoed in her mind. You let my people go. You could have killed 4 more. Didn't. Mercy, the hardest choice, the one that required the most strength. She lifted her finger from the trigger. Let them go. Chose mercy over mission. Some things were more important than body count. Movement below, Master Sergeant Thatcher running toward the eastern bunker, shouting something she couldn't hear over the ringing in her ears. Then the flash, the pressure wave, the instant of recognition before impact. Mortar. Close. Too close. The explosion lifted Sloane off the roof and threw her like a rag doll. She hit hard, rolled, felt something hot tear through her left shoulder. Not a clean cut, a ripping, tearing, shrapnel. Pain came white and screaming. She looked down, blood soaking through her uniform. A lot of it. Too much, the kind of bleeding that meant bad things. Below, someone was calling for a medic. Multiple voices. Urgent. Desperate. Sloane grabbed her bag, climbed down the ladder one-handed. Each rung was agony. Fire running down her arm, vision swimming, graying at the edges, hit the ground. Her legs nearly buckled. Blood loss trying to drag her under into darkness. No. She forced her mind clear. Forced the pain into a box, locked it away. Old training, seer school. Pain is information. Information can be processed later. Found Dalton first. His tourniquet had loosened somehow. Blood seeping again. Red, bright, bad. She dropped beside him. Left arm barely functional now. Used her right hand in her teeth. Retightened the tourniquet. Twisted the windlass. Checked his pulse with the shaking fingers. Weak, but present. He was still in the fight. Doc, you're bleeding. Dalton's voice was weak, slurred, shock setting in. I know. She pulled gauze from her bag with her right hand, pressed it hard against her own shoulder with her left, hissed through clenched teeth. Stay with me, Corporal. Keep your eyes on me. Lieutenant Carver appeared eyes wide. Doc, Jesus Christ, you need treatment. I need you to move Dalton to the secondary bunker. No waver in her voice, despite the pain, despite the blood, despite everything. Monitor that tourniquet. Don't loosen it under any circumstances. Mark the time. He's got maybe 90 minutes before we start seeing tissue damage. But you... Now, Lieutenant, that's an order. Carver moved, grabbed Dalton under the arms, started dragging him toward cover. Sloane stood. The world tilted sideways. She forced it level through sheer will. Found Ryland. Sergeant, can you walk? Think so. Get to the bunker. Tell them you need a chest seal and monitoring. That needle decompression is temporary. You need a chest tube. Tell them. Can you remember that? Chest seal, chest tube, got it. Dock your shoulder, move, Sergeant, now. Ryland moved, limping but mobile. The compound was quieter now. Enemy fire sporadic. The assault had failed. Broken against the compound's defenses. Broken against Ghost Viper. Sloane's left arm hung useless. Blood dripped from her fingertips onto the snow. Bright red on white. She could feel shock coming. Vision narrowing, tunnel vision. Her body trying to shut down. Not yet. With one hand in her teeth, she applied her own tourniquet. High on the arm, above the wound, above the bleeding, twisted it tight. The pain was extraordinary. White, searing, like fire and ice at the same time. She welcomed it. Pain meant alive. Pain meant conscious. Pain meant she could still work. Found Huxley. His bandages were holding. Blood soaked through, but not flowing. You stable, Private? Yeah, Doc, but you don't look. Get to the bunker. Now. Captain Keller appeared. Standing. Blood on his face from rock fragments, but standing. Staring at her. Doc. His voice was quiet. Awed. Horrified. You're still working. People are still hurt, sir. You're hurt. You're bleeding. You need... I can work. She met his eyes, saw the question there. The concern, the fear. Can I... Keller stared at this small woman, bleeding from multiple shrapnel wounds. One arm tourniqueted, medical bag still clutched in her right hand. Still standing, still working, still saving lives while bleeding out. Yeah, Doc, he said softly. You can work. You can work. But everyone was stable now. Or dead. The dead didn't need her. Sloane's legs gave out, just stopped working. She went down hard. Keller caught her before she hit the ground. Easy. I got you. I got you. Need to check. Dalton's tourniquet. Make sure it's tight enough. Everyone's stable, Doc. Because of you. Everyone's stable. Sloane tried to stand. Couldn't. Her body had reached its limit. Reality was flooding in through the adrenaline crash. Pain, blood loss, shock. Medevac's inbound, Keller said. You're on it. You're getting on that bird. Dalton needs it more. Arterial damage. He needs... Dalton's going. You're going. That's an order, Sergeant. That's a direct order. Sloane tried to protest. The world went gray. Then black. She woke on a helicopter. Noise. Vibration. The familiar sensation of flight. A flight medic leaning over her face concerned. Welcome back, Sergeant. You scared us there for a minute. Dalton. Her voice was rough, dry. Stable. Right next to you. Good work on that tourniquet. Textbook. Best application I've seen in 20 years. Ryland. Also stable. On the next bird. That needle decompression bought him the time he needed. Sloane closed her eyes. Everyone lived. That was what mattered. Everyone lived. Her shoulder throbbed, but the pain was distant now, manageable. They'd given her morphine, the good stuff, military grade. She'd broken her promise again, picked up the rifle, killed people, multiple people, but also healed, saved, kept the team alive. Maybe Keller was right. Maybe that was enough. Maybe that's what honoring the little girl meant. Not burying herself, but using everything she was to save others. Maybe. The helicopter flew toward the hospital. Sloan drifted in and out. Surgery, anesthesia, darkness, sleep without dreams for the first time in 3 years. 3 days later, she woke in a hospital bed. Left shoulder bandaged heavily, immobilized in a sling. IV in her right arm, monitors beeping steadily. Captain Keller sat beside her bed, reading a report. He looked up when she stirred. "Sir?" Her voice was hoarse from the breathing tube. "Doc, how you feeling?" "Like I got hit by a mortar." "You did. 14 pieces of shrapnel. Surgeon said another inch medial and you'd have lost the arm. Another inch superior and you'd have bled out before we got you to the bird." Keller leaned forward. "You saved 4 lives while bleeding from 14 shrapnel wounds. That's beyond exceptional. That's beyond anything I've ever seen." "Just doing my job, sir." "No." Keller's voice was firm. "You did 2 jobs. Perfectly. You were a medic. You were a marksman. You were both. At the same time, and everyone lived because of it." Sloan looked at him. "Sir, I broke my promise. I killed people. You protected people. There's a difference, Udagarmin." Before she could respond, Keller produced a tablet. "Someone wants to talk to you." On screen, an older man, silver hair, hard eyes that had seen too much. Colonel's insignia, Colonel Garrett Vance, Navy Medical Command. "Staff Sergeant Hartley," Vance said. "Sir." Sloan tried to sit up. Pain flared. She gasped. "Stay down, Sergeant. Doctor's orders. You've earned the rest." Vance studied her through the screen. "I've read Captain Keller's report. Every word. Very detailed. Very thorough. I've also reviewed your complete service record, including the classified portions that officially don't exist." Sloan said nothing. "You violated the terms of your reassignment agreement. You engaged in combat operations significantly outside your designated hospital corpsman role." "Yes, sir." "You employed precision fire on multiple occasions, resulted in at least 9 enemy casualties over a 72-hour period." "Yes, sir." "You also saved multiple American lives and 1 civilian life through medical intervention and tactical action." Vance paused, studied her. "Explain your decision to engage with lethal force." Sloan chose her words carefully. "Sir, my team was pinned down. Casualties were mounting. Standard medical response would have failed. Offensive action was necessary to enable treatment and extraction." "So you picked up a rifle, the thing you swore never to do again." "Yes, sir. I chose my team over my promise. I chose lives over words." "What about Syria? The girl, does that choice honor her memory?" Sloan's chest tightened. The question cut deep. "I carry her every day, sir. That doesn't change. That will never change." "Does it change how you use your skills?" "Yes, sir. I won't take a life unnecessarily, but I won't let people die unnecessarily either. Not anymore. I can't. Even if it means becoming what you were, Ghost Viper." "I'm not what I was, sir." Sloan's voice was firm, clear. "I was only a weapon then, a tool, a resource to be deployed. Now I'm more than that." "What's that?" "Someone who can do both, heal and protect, save and defend. I won't choose one over the other anymore. Both hands, sir. One mission." Vance nodded slowly. "Captain Keller recommended you for dual designation, hospital corpsman/precision designated marksman. Navy's never done that before. Never even considered it." "I understand, sir. It would set precedent, change doctrine, change how we think about medical personnel and combat roles. Open doors for others." "Yes, sir." "It would also mean accepting what you are, all of what you are. No more hiding, no more running. Your service record would reflect both designations. Ghost Viper would become official again." Sloan met his eyes through the screen. "I'm done hiding, sir. I'm done running. If that's what it takes to save lives, I'll accept it." Vance smiled. Brief, genuine. "Good answer. Recommendation approved. Effective immediately, you are redesignated hospital corpsman/precision designated marksman. Congratulations, Sergeant, and thank you for your service, all of it." The screen went dark. 6 weeks recovery, Keller said. "Then back to Kodiak if you want, or training command, your choice." "I want Kodiak, sir. My team's there." "Good, because they want you back." The next day, visitors came. Master Sergeant Thatcher, Lieutenant Carver, Sergeant Ryland, Corporal Dalton. They stood awkwardly in her hospital room, big men in a small space. Thatcher spoke first. Doc, we came to say something. We were wrong from the start. We doubted you, dismissed you, treated you like you didn't belong. That was on us, on me. You didn't know me, Master Sergeant. Not an excuse. Thatcher's voice was rough, emotional. You proved yourself over and over, every day, and we kept doubting. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry, Doc. Genuinely, deeply sorry. Ryland stepped forward. You saved my life twice in 3 days. The spleen catch with Huxley showed us what you could do medically. But that needle decompression, Doc, I was dying. I felt it. You brought me back. I owe you everything. Dalton nodded, eyes wet. My wife's got her husband back. My kids' 3-year-old twins still have their dad. Because of you. Because you did your job when you were bleeding out. I'll never forget that. Never. Carver was last. Quiet. Thoughtful. I investigated you. Suspected you. Treated you like a threat. You responded by saving all our lives, multiple times. I'm honored to serve with you, Sergeant. Truly honored. Sloane's throat tightened. You were all professional. You had questions. That's normal. That's right. I was hiding things. Important things. Thatcher extended his hand. You're the finest medic and the finest marksman I've ever known. Not one or the other. Both, equal, integrated. That's rare. That's special. Sloane shook his hand with her good arm. That's the job now, Master Sergeant. Both hands. One mission. They left. She lay back, closed her eyes. For the first time in 3 years, she felt something close to peace. 6 months later, Fort Benning, Georgia. Summer heat replacing Alaska cold. Pine trees instead of snow. Red clay instead of frozen earth. Staff Sergeant Sloane Hartley stood before 22 students in a classroom. 14 Navy corpsmen, 8 Army medics. All volunteers. All chosen. All ready to learn something new. Welcome to Integrated Combat Medicine, she said. Her voice was firm, clear, confident. This program teaches dual role capability. You'll learn medical intervention and precision fire. You'll master both or you'll wash out. No middle ground. She walked the front row. Some of you think being a medic means never fighting. You're wrong. Some think being a shooter means never healing. Also wrong. She stopped, looked at them, held each set of eyes for a moment. Real combat requires integration. Your skills must work together seamlessly. Heal when you can, fight when you must. But understand, truly understand, that these aren't separate missions. They're one mission. Keep your team alive. A young corpsman raised his hand, nervous, eager. Ma'am, how do you switch between healing and killing? How do you make that mental transition? You don't switch, Sloane said. That's the point. You don't transition. You understand that they serve the same goal. Sometimes you need a tourniquet. Sometimes you need a bullet. The tool changes. The mission doesn't. Over 6 months, she taught them medical fundamentals that would save lives, marksmanship that would protect them, tactical integration that made both skills more effective. The program expanded beyond Fort Benning, Camp Lejeune, 29 Palms, Joint Base Lewis McChord. The concept spread. Dual-role medics, combat medicine with teeth. 7 female corpsmen applied for advanced marksmanship qualification through the program. 3 graduated. More would follow. The idea was taking hold. Both hands, one mission. On a Tuesday in October, the Sloane sat in her office at Fort Benning. Certificates on the wall. Hospital corpsman. Precision designated marksman. Both official now. Both acknowledged. No more hiding. Her phone rang. Sloane? Her mother's voice, older, tired, but warm. Hi, Mom. How are you, sweetheart? I'm good, really good. Silence. Her mother had always been able to hear the truth behind the words. Mom, I need to tell you something. In Alaska, I broke my promise. I picked up a rifle. I used it. I killed people. Her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then why? Because people would have died if I didn't. Good people, people with families, people who deserve to go home. And now, are you okay with that choice? I'm trying to be. I'm teaching others now, so they can do both. Protect and heal, fight and save, use both hands. Long pause. Sloane could hear her mother breathing, processing. Your father would be so proud of you. Sloane's eyes burned. You think so? I know so. He taught you those skills because he believed they save lives. He was right. You've proven that. But the girl in Syria, I know about her, honey. You told me. And that's a tragedy you'll carry for the rest of your life. But punishing yourself forever doesn't honor her memory. Living fully does. Saving others does. Being everything you can be that honors her. I'm trying, Mom, every day. I know you are. And I'm proud of you. So proud. For being strong enough to be both things. For breaking your promise when it mattered. For understanding that sometimes promises have to be broken to save lives. I love you, Mom. Love you too, sweetheart. Come home for Thanksgiving. I promise. And this time I'll keep it. When she hung up, Sloan felt lighter, freer, like chains she'd been carrying had fallen away. On her desk sat two photographs in one frame. Left side, a 7-year-old Syrian girl. Dark hair pulled back. Wide eyes, bright smile and a moment of innocence. Before. The photo Sloan had found later. The child alive and happy. Right side, Corporal Dalton holding his newborn daughter. 3 months old, pink hat, tiny hands gripping his finger. Sign beside them reading, "Thanks, Doc. You gave me this moment." The life she'd taken, the life she'd saved. She couldn't undo the past, couldn't bring back the girl. That would haunt her forever, but she could make sure other children didn't lose their fathers, could teach others to protect and heal, could use both hands to serve the mission, could forgive herself enough to live, to be, to serve. A knock on the door, a young lieutenant with a briefing folder. "Ma'am, this just came in. Operation Crosswind, JSOC, requesting senior medical advisor with specialized skills." Sloan took the folder, read the mission parameters, complex, dangerous. High-risk operation requiring both medical expertise and tactical capability. Requiring someone who could be both. She looked at the corner of her office, her M4 leaning against the wall, her Barrett in its case beside it. Both clean, both ready, both hers, medical bag between them. Also ready, also hers, all her tools, all her skills, all herselves, integrated, accepted, no longer hidden. "Briefing's at 0800 tomorrow," the lieutenant said. Sloan nodded. "I'll be there." The lieutenant left. Outside her window, students trained on the range, running drills, practicing transitions. Medical to tactical, tactical to medical, learning to integrate their skills. Learning what she'd learned, what her father knew, what 3 years of hiding and running had finally taught her. That the strongest warriors aren't the ones who only destroy or only heal. They're the ones who understand when to do each. Who can hold a scalpel and a rifle with equal skill and equal respect. Who choose mercy when possible and force when necessary. Who honor the dead by saving the living. Who understand that both hands serve one mission. Sloan Hartley picked up her gear. Both bags, both weapons. Tomorrow's mission waited, and she was ready. Finally, completely, wholly, to be everything she was meant to be. Staff Sergeant Sloan Hartley, hospital corpsman, precision designated marksman, healer, protector, guardian, ghost, Viper reborn. The woman who understood that sometimes the greatest strength is knowing which hand to use and having the courage to use both.